Simply Sherry writes, I love how clustered embellishments look on a layout, but when I try this technique, I quickly become overwhelmed. How do you know which embellishments to use and where to place them in cluster to achieve that overall beautiful effect? Glitter Gal, can you help Simply Sherry create cluster consistency?
Of course I can. Today we're going back to an earlier question that's one that comes up quite frequently, and I want to revisit it with current products and give you a bit more direction to help in that topic. So we're looking at clustered embellishments, and the first thing that I would suggest is to gather a group of supplies that will give you lots of different sizes, shapes, and textures. But when I say lots of different, I really don't mean a huge variety. So let me talk you through this process a little bit. Now, just going from the top of the stack here, I will start by saying that stamps are optional, and if you prefer scrapping without stamps, then by all means you can just leave this step out. But I tend to start with a background stamp or maybe a border stamp, something that's a bit bigger on the page, and something that has lots of small stamp options that you can use. So here I have little arrows and words and cameras and things like that. And so having that balance of something big and something small can be really helpful for the clustered embellishment look. But if you don't want to stamp, you can certainly do it without it. And I don't stamp on every layout by any means. It really helps to have something that can work as a horizontal element, and for that I often use washi tape. So I've pulled out 3 different tapes that match the paper collection that I'm using today, a green, a yellow, and an aqua. And these are an older Amy Tangerine, an older Hamley Studios, and an older October Afternoon. So they just happen to be the best color match in my particular collection. And with washi tape, you know that you can use quite a lot and not run out. So I tend to still have older tapes and keep on using them. But something that works as a horizontal element, if you don't have washi tape or you prefer not to use washi tape, you can substitute with border strips, either cut from paper or in the sticker variety. Or you can use ribbon, you can even use border stamps, anything like that that's going to create a straight line. And push comes to shove, you can even sometimes do it with just a pen. Then I look for some embellishments that are going to have texture that's not just paper. In this case, I've pulled out these 3 options. Some flare badges. These 2 are from American Crafts Dear Lizzie, and these 2 are from Tupi's themselves. Some enamel dots. These are from Freckled Fawn, and also from Freckled Fawn I've pulled out some wood veneer pieces. Now I'm already starting to limit my shapes because I have circle elements here and here, and I'm bringing in a heart motif. I've actually taken that from the paper collection, which I can probably show you right here. There's these little hearts in this collection that are not perfectly symmetrical. They're kind of a bit more hand-drawn, and although I had lots of tiny little wood veneer hearts where they're all the same size, this pack gave me kind of a variety of shapes and sizes of hearts, so I thought that might be a better fit to the type of illustration in the collection. And then this flare badge also has a heart, so I'm trying to have a little bit of variety. I don't want everything to be rectangles. I'd like to have some circles, some hearts, or maybe some stars or something like that. I try to do rectangles and circles and then one other shape usually. And pulling those different motifs together can really help that finishing look, because you'll have all these different pieces, but they'll have something in common that makes the design cohesive. So different textures, but limiting the different kinds of shapes. Then you'll want some paper elements, and I include flat stickers in my paper elements too. One thing I tend to use now, and often in my clustered embellishments, are 3x4 journaling cards, because I can use plenty of them as a place to hold the embellishment. And you'll see in the page design, I'm thinking that I'll be able to use this one more for the wording, and this one will hold my major embellishment on the page. And it just means that I have an area of the page that's contained, and then I know I can work as much embellishment into that space as I want, and it's not going to explode and take over the rest of my page. So I can still have lots of detailed embellishment without feeling like it's running everywhere and overwhelming my photos, which designs that go outside the box, sorry for that poor choice of words, but designs that would flow maybe around a corner or more freestyle across the page can be absolutely beautiful, but they can also be just a little bit more difficult to get the balance right between the embellishment and the photos. So if you're finding that is difficult, then the 3x4 card or any size journaling card can really come in useful to reining it in a little bit and helping that all go together. These two cards, by the way, are from the Craft Project Life Core Kit, and I was misled a little bit by the name of the Craft Core Kit. I thought because it was called Craft, it was all on craft. So in case I'm not the only person who had this, and maybe I am the only person who thought this, and everyone else was well informed and I was just in the dark. It's not the first time. And most of the cards are printed on vanilla cream cardstock, and then there are some that are printed on craft, but there's a lot that are printed on this off-white cream colored cardstock, which means if you love paper lines that come in cream-based papers like October Afternoon and you want to use that in a Project Life book, then the Craft Core Kit could be your absolute answer there, because it's not on that crisp white, it's on the off-white. So there you go. It's not all craft, but like I said, I might be the only one who had that assumption. Sorry about that. And then I have 2 sets of stickers, and I'm not going to use all of them, of course, just want some little bits and pieces. I like the idea of having some label shapes because they're nice and orderly, but then this set also includes some hearts and stars and things like that. Now, I'm not doing a Christmas layout, but I've brought in this Christmas piece because if I look at the individual pieces, they aren't all Christmas themed. There are a few that say Christmas or have a tree, but if I use a pink heart on any page, it doesn't say Christmas. This green star does not necessarily have to say Christmas. Indeed, this red heart says love you, so it could be a Valentine's Day page even. And I'm also going to be using a pattern paper collection that's not purposely Christmas, but could be used for Christmas. So they kind of work in both directions that way. I just picked these because of the colors matching the paper collection. So I wanted a bit of red, a bit of green, a bit of yellow. These two are from Bella Boulevard. And then here's the paper collection that I'm using now. I've pulled out the whole collection pack here, and obviously I won't be using all of it, but I just wanted to give you an idea of the collection pack. And this is the Finley collection from Glitz Designs. So it has this color scheme with lots of black and white, but also yellow, green, aqua, red. And there we go. So I'll give you a little look at this collection so you can see different patterns. There's some floral, some triangles, these lovely little water washed kind of solids where it's a solid color, but there's some distressing. And there's a balance of both cream-based paper and white-based paper. Some solids here as well, and then on the other side of that solid is this green. And the collection pack also includes both sheets of stickers, so you get 3 different larger alphabets, 2 small tiled alphabets, and the word tiles, plus the embellishment sheets that has borders, journaling boxes, small pieces, big pieces, all of that. And so, of course, all those papers and the sticker sheets can be purchased separately, or you can get the whole set as a collection kit. Right, so that's all by Glitz Design, and I'm just going to be picking out a few, but I wanted to show you the whole collection, and you can see where the color scheme comes from that way. But this collection, it's not specifically Christmas, but if you look, there are a few different motifs that you could work with at Christmas, and I like this combination of maybe using red and a really greenish aqua plus this acid green yellowy shade, and it could really work for kind of a modern Christmas book if you wanted to use this collection this year. But I'm not going to be doing Christmas photos with it. I have 2 pictures that have a lot of red accents, and that's what made me grab this collection. Starting my page, I want something that will have the same color as what I'm working with in the photos and something that's going to have contrast in this particular example. So I've used the red as the smaller box because that's the same that appeared in the photo, and I feel that if I did a red background, then it will be overwhelmingly red and kind of harder to see the photos. So I've got the high contrast color in the background, and that's this bright neon kind of green. Then I just used a neutral scrap for my basket. This was a October Afternoon, really dark gray or almost black and cream stripe, so that will work together. Now, in figuring out where I want the photos to go, I need to keep in mind the space that I will need to use the clustered embellishments. So I'm going to want to have room to have this phrase that I've picked out, and also room to have this box. It can go in either direction, but room to have that box. And so I'm going to be figuring out those placements on the page before I adhere my photos. But before I even do that, I'm going to go ahead and add some ink to the background. I'm going to go with two colors. I have inky black Mr. Huey and a gray tintype from October Afternoon, and I'm just going to add a diagonal line of droplets so that I'll have that in the background, which adds a little bit of detail to the area behind all the clustered embellishment. While it's drying, you may be able to see the difference in the October Afternoon sprinklers versus the Mr. Huey. The Mr. Huey is more like an ink. It's going to go directly into the page, and the sprinklers are more like a paint, so it sits on top of the page rather than soaking in straight away. It takes a slightly longer to dry, but not very long at all, and you can always heat that up with your heat gun if you're really pressed for time and need to move ahead. I'm just going to let it air dry for a couple minutes and then carry on with my layout on top of all those ink droplets. Here's one way you can make sure that you have space for all the different elements you want to include, and that's to go ahead and attach the pieces either side of your photos before you attach it onto the page. So now I know exactly how much room this is going to take up, and I can move it around until I find a spot that's going to balance so that the cards are coming slightly off each box. Now that's just purely good luck because I didn't place it against this to measure against the box. I actually just used the fact that I wanted a nice red border here, and I covered up the cream strip at the top of the red grid card. And I could always move it around if it didn't work well with the box that I'd already added. So I think that will be my placement. I can go ahead and add my adhesive and put that into place, and then I'm free to build all the little details of the clustered embellishments because my space is already allocated here. I try to make sure that I'm going to have space for my title and my journaling before I start the embellishment, and that doesn't necessarily mean that I have to put it on the page straight away, but it's good to look at the page before I start layering on the embellishments to figure out where it's going to go. So I'll either put it on first, or I will make sure I know in my mind where it's going to go. And from this point in the page, I know that my title could go in one of two places really easily. It could go along this side here, and the letter stickers that I have, the red matches that same pattern that I've chosen, and then there's the green, and my title is going to be 2 words. So I could do that over this line and use the red stickers on the green and the green stickers on the red. Or I could use an alphabet that contrasts more on the green and place my title down here, and then I would have lots of space up here to embellish. And I think then if my title were down here, I would add my journaling in this space over here. But if I put my title over here, I think I'd balance that by putting my journaling over here, and I think I could still make the journaling work in this empty space here, because I could write along this top space here, and if I needed more room, I could fill in all of that little column there. So I think I will try the title here, and because I'm not 100% sure that the stickers are going to work the way I imagine them in my mind, I'm going to go ahead and do it now, and that's with the red stickers on the green and the green stickers on the red. Although these stickers are a little smaller than what I ordinarily use for my title, I think it will work, and it may be that if you look at the page, you might read this larger lettering as the title and not the letter stickers, but that's okay. I don't think there's any problem with the title being a little bit less obvious due to the font size. It's all still legible. The story is going to be told. It's fine. But I wanted to pause here and show you something about lining up letters, because this comes up if you are trying to avoid trapped white space. Now, This alphabet here in all caps is really easy to use, and you can use it in a straight line or you can use it staggered because all of the letters are the same height from top to bottom, and they've all been stretched out so that they have that same vertical spacing. The lowercase alphabet, however, the letters are different heights. So you get the standard size letters like A and R, but then you also get descenders like the P and the Y, where there's something that goes below that normal baseline, and you get ascenders like the T, where there's something that goes above the top line here. Now, it may seem that the better idea is to bring these letters down and set them on top of the red line here, because then I wouldn't have this trapped space underneath the letters. And I can show you what would happen in that case, and that is that I would basically, I would be lining up the bottom of each letter rather than the way we would normally write it in a line. So if I place the normal letter down here more in line with the bottom of the descending P, I don't want to stick it down completely because I want to move it back up, but you can see how this spacing doesn't look natural. It's not how we would write the word. Likewise, I could do the opposite and keep the baseline all even, meaning that I could treat the Y like the bottom is actually on the baseline, and I could place it here so then it's going to be tall, and that's perhaps less awkward but still not natural to how we read. So my preference is to keep the normal line of the lettering intact and have the descenders descending and have the ascenders ascending. And that does mean that technically there is this bit of trapped white space here. Now, I tend to evaluate that on a case-by-case basis, and at this point I would just live with the layout while I'm making it, and before I'm finished I'll look at that space and evaluate if the space is fine or if it needs a little bit of work. If this space is glaring at me when the page is done, the easiest thing I can do here is underline the word. So just take a ruler or a small arrow stamp, something that's going to fit in this tiny little gap, and then that gap is filled and there's no trapped white space there anymore. But 9 times out of 10, by the time the page is finished, this space doesn't bother me at all, and I am happier that the word reads really easily than that outweighs this little bit of space. So it's certainly just something to keep in mind if you find that in this case I can't have the P descending onto the red, so I can't use this as my baseline because this letter sticker is the same color as this paper. So if I move the P down so that the P overlaps onto the red paper, you won't be able to see what letter it is. It would just be a little bit confusing and hard to read. So there we go. That's a little sidetrack discussion on ascenders and descenders. At this point, I'm ready to start with my embellishment, and the first step I'm going to take is to use my horizontal element, in this case washi tape, to block out the places that I'm going to place my clustered embellishments. I'm going to start with the widest piece of washi tape and do a little bit of layering even with that. So if I can just get this roll started, there we go. And this will give me a nice background that I can just build on top of. Just like the ink, a lot of it is not going to show in the finished version. I know that I want my largest embellishment cluster to go on this red grid box. So I'll start with the washi tape there, and depending on your photo and what you prefer, you can run the horizontal element over the top of the photo just a little bit, or you can tuck it underneath. Both will work. And then I'm going to layer up with the shorter tapes. And I think I'll just use the 2 here, and it may be that I use the third tape somewhere else on the page, or it may be that I don't use it at all, so I'll just see how the clusters come together. So that's my largest area of embellishment, and then I find it most useful usually to use 2 more, but I might only have 1 more on some layouts. And indeed some layouts need, they seem to be a bit more balanced with a total of 4, so you could have 1 large embellishment group and 3 small ones. But I'm going to give it a try with just 2 more, and I tend to look at things like, can I cross that on the diagonal, so this is on one side of the photos, what can I add to the other side of the photos to balance? So this is at the bottom on this side, so if I come up to this top on this side, then I can balance that. But I can also look at things that if they go a little bit imperfect, can I add something to cover it up? So for example, I'm not too keen on this particular droplet where it kind of spread out and didn't make a nice round shape, so I can try to keep my embellishment pretty close here, and then I'll be able to build up to a spot that will cover that. Just straighten this out a bit. So if I start here, I know that my cluster is going to come up on the page a little bit. This is going to be the baseline, the bottom of the embellishment, and that will help me cover that ink droplet that I just am not quite as keen on. Then I start to look at all the different embellishments that I have available. That includes my stamps, my stickers, the flare badges, my wood veneer, all these different pieces. So I know that I'll use the larger stamps for places where I'm going to have something in the background. So I could block out this space and include some of the wood grain here. This is the same stamping technique that I used in the adventure that's all about 3x4 cards. So same sort of thing, I'm just using it to create a space that has some background texture. And then I'm going to use the largest stickers first, and this could also be die cuts or paper shaped. What I'm paying attention to is color and shape more than the actual design inside. So here I know I'm going to layer embellishment over the top of those 2 circles, so I'm not worried that the wording on the sticker isn't really something that fits with the page, because I can just cover it up. And I think in this case I'll go ahead and leave this piece flat to the page, and then I'm going to add some layers on top with pop dots so that I have a range of textures. And you can try what different pieces will work. It may be that you want more traditional shapes. I'm going to go ahead and use one of the pieces that is perhaps a little less likely, because, well, I'm going to use it if I can make it fit over these words, which, yes, it's going to fit right over the top of that. And it's because it does actually work well with the other pages that I have in my album that will surround this. It was a themed party, and there's all this sort of tartan and check and lots of frayed fabric that we used in the decoration. And I think that, that the deer will work quite well with that. It was lots of outdoorsy themes to the party, even though it was quite cold, so the party was inside. And I know that this element wouldn't work for all themes of pages, but having had a look at the other pages that are before and after this in my album, that gives me that little bit of extra help to know that actually in this case that's a good choice for how it's all going to fit together. It even works well knowing that this red print in the middle is the red print I've used here, and I've used the cream and black stripe that shows up here. It just happens that the layout that's opposite this in my album, when it's finished, what will be opposite it, is a layout that's on a black and white striped or black and cream striped paper, not unlike this. And so to have that little bit show up here in the clustered embellishment is going to help not just on this 12 by 12 page, but how those 2 pages go together, even though they've been made with different supplies at different points in time. So this collection didn't even exist when I made the other layout more than a year ago. So little things like that can help the clusters, but they're certainly not a necessity. You can always put them together based just on one layout at a time. And then my next step is to come up with something that's going to cover that other bit of lettering. So I just go through the different pieces that I've pulled out to find the shapes that will work. And I have that arrow might be the best one here. And it's worked out really well that then I have these different pieces that are giving me different edges. So this flare badge, because it's placed ever so slightly off the edge of that circle, it's going to create a more fluid effect to the clustered embellishment than if this were centered in the middle of the green circle. I hope that makes a little bit of sense. There are certainly embellishments that I build where I'm putting pieces right in top and right in the center and building them one on top of the other. But if I'm using a real variety of shapes like the wood grain, the deer, and the circles here, and I'm going to be adding some hearts into the mix, then it works a little bit better to spread them out and have the edges all maintain these different edges so they don't feel contained, except I know that I'm using this card to contain everything, but you'll notice even these little pieces here go right off the edge, so that's giving me a feeling that everything is going to be based in this amount of the page. You know that I'm not going to take my embellishment and kind of explode it over here, but it's all going to be anchored, and the majority is going to be on this red grid card. But by having those just little edges that come over those lines, it really helps create a piece that has a little bit of energy and will feel nice and polished when it's done. So I've added now some round shapes and some more freestyle shapes. It will help me if I bring in the pieces that are a little bit more classically shaped, I suppose. Things like the label stickers or something that goes in a nice little line, because for everything I add that's kind of a freestyle random shape, it's nice to pull it back to something that has a balance of something that's more orderly. I can also bring in my heart shapes. They're not too crazy. So I think I'll add a label and a few little hearts to this grouping here, and that will help me see if I need much more. I know I have my enamel dots as a little finishing touch too. So maybe have 3 different heart shapes there. I think the ones with the words are not particularly the best for this particular layout, but there's a taller, more narrow heart that I think will work well. I think I prefer that one to this one. And a label to match. I like the idea of bringing this in because it's a very similar color but more saturated. So let's see where this could fit together. And then with wood veneers, I just use my normal adhesive. And again, I place the largest pieces first. And I tend to place the largest pieces closest here. And then as I work out, I add smaller and smaller pieces. Now, this wood veneer pack has the same shape in 2 different sizes. So I get the 2 in the more narrow heart and the 2 sizes of the wider heart. So I'm going to place these so that they are opposite each other, rather than putting those 2 close and then having this one over to the side, because then it would look more obvious that one didn't match. And what I want here is more the effect that they're all quite individual. Go. And then I can add in enamel dots. Now, I've done a lot of embellishment here. I need to balance that up here. So what I'll do is just follow the same thing, but I know this one's going to be bigger. That's fine because I don't have any more of these large deer stickers, and I think that more of them on the layout would be a little bit overwhelming anyway. One as an accent works a lot better than having lots of something that's big and unique. So I'll look for still the largest element first, but I'm going to start with something a little bit smaller than what I used over here. So this embellishment uses the same elements but smaller. So I've started with just a single circle sticker rather than the 2-piece. This is one sticker, but it's 2 circles in the design. So that's already a little bit smaller. Again, it had wording in the middle that I wanted to cover up, so that's where I started with the heart and the flare badge. And here, instead of using a larger sticker on top, I've actually used a smaller sticker on top. 3 wood grain hearts, just the same as down here, and wood veneer hearts, sorry, and 3 enamel dots, and 1 label sticker. But this time I've tucked part of the label sticker away to make it smaller and more to scale to this embellishment. So although I'm using the same amount of the small pieces, just by taking the scale down and not having any large unique pieces up here, like this big deer head or the stamp in the background, that keeps this one a little bit plainer, and that way this starts by catching your attention, but it shouldn't overwhelm the photos, which should then be more important on the page than this little group of embellishments. It gives me this space to add some writing, and I think I'll add some writing across here as well, and that will frame this whole corner nicely to have the writing in 2 spots. And this is then a final step that I would add, and that's to look at the small stamps or small stickers. So with this stamp set, I have little things like arrows, tickets, or the little camera, and with the letter sticker sheet, I got all of these words as well. Things that are really small and in this proportion of those stamps or stickers are great for taking these spaces and thinking, well, I wish this had a little bit more. And this might be absolutely enough for your page, or you might feel that you want a little bit more, and then you could also add some small embellishment over to this corner. So I'm going to show you how, if I wanted to add a 3rd space of embellishment on this page, I would do that by keeping it really small and simple. And I'm going to start with the tape, just like I did with the other 2. So underneath here, I'll just tidy up this edge a little bit. Underneath this corner, then I add the wide tape and then the more narrow one, so that I have both colors present. And then I can just work with the smallest pieces. So I start with the wood veneer and the enamel dots, and then I'm going to add some small word stickers through the whole page that will help it all come together. So same thing, 3 little wood veneer hearts and 3 enamel dots. And now to bring that all together, I'll just add a couple of the little sticker words that I have something in each of those, and just find the words that are the best match to the story, and I'll add my journaling to these 2 spaces here. I particularly love the glitz letter sheets because it means that I can start with the different little word blocks, and if there's not a word that fits well with my story, the letter blocks for the small alphabets are the same height, so I can spell out the word that I want to use to fit with the writing that I'm going to include. So I've added my journaling around this corner, and then these little word block stickers repeat here, and they don't always have to involve words. Here I chose the ones that had a shape to bring your eye over toward the photo, so the arrow is pointing that direction. And you'll notice here it means that those 2 stickers bridge the gap between the title and the gathering of embellishment, so I don't have empty space in between. It brings a little bit more prominence to the title because that title is smaller than over here. And that gives it that little bit of continuity to have those pieces that are the same size, same color scheme, and that works throughout the whole thing, just like repeating the wood veneer pieces and the enamel dots. So this is where I'm going to leave this page for this week. By the way, I have come back to have a look at this, and I have decided I don't want to add anything underneath the gap here, but if I did, I think it would just be 1 or 2 little doodled lines with my pen, but because I've added writing to the top here in these 2 places and a little bit down here, I think that's plenty of pen work, and I'm not really too worried if this doesn't catch your eye straight away. I will say that it's not as bold a title as I might use when I use thickers on my layouts, or indeed something that's in a big black bold font here. But that's okay, because if you take the time to read the journaling in my album, then you're going to see that all fits together. Otherwise, you might just look at the pretty pictures in the embellishment and turn the page, and I'm equally happy with both of those. So this is the end for my particular layout. Your challenge is to create a cluster of embellishments, and you can do 1 cluster, 2, 3, however many will fit your design properly, and share it with us in the gallery. In the box below your layout, please be sure to tell us a little bit about your creative process. What products did you decide to use in your cluster, or what worked and what didn't? Tell us a little bit so we can learn from your crafting too, and I hope that you will share your work in the gallery. By the way, if you're watching this today when it goes live on the 2nd of October, today is the last day that you can get the free bonus video by signing up to Glitter Girl's Scrapbooking Survival Guide workshop here at 2Ps. So I hope you will check that out and not miss out on that little extra for free. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.
Join us next week for the continuing adventures of Glitter Girl and the ongoing mystery of the scrapbooker behind the mask at 2psinabucket.com.